Hello, I'm Chris Godber, also known as Noir Vortex Online, as I'm sure you're aware. You clicked on this video. Welcome to a new series I'm doing on my own philosophical writing. So to start off with, I'm going to just read an essay on Nietzsche and Zarathustra, the idea of Übermensch. I'm doing this outside because I thought it'd just be more interesting to do it. So, this is an essay on the ideal of the Übermensch as written in das Buch Zarathustra. It's from an excerpt from a book Pandora, of which this is the only copy that exists at the minute, so I can get a proper publisher, I suppose. So, without further ado, burden of meaning, the harsh reality of Zarathustra. Contents. Introduction, the scope of the burdens in a field of confusions, the questions. Brief analysis on philosophical precedents through the bestial force of nature. Negation of God as absolute meaning. Conversing with ghosts and the limits of the overman. What is it to know? What is it to feel? To feel the gnaw of mortality instinctively in the gut, from the pineal gland gliding all the way down. The struggle for meaning in it all. Finality, some meaning to burden with truth, and some truth to burden with meaning. Truth, lie, duality, contradictions. The mind as experienced by the soul must live by its excess and by its very nature struggle. The storm creates the perception of sea, the lonely wanderer in an ocean of chaos is bound to its treacherous ragings. Its moody melodramatic odyssey, metaphor for mood. Aspiring to be an organic thinker, as Kiron puts it. This short essay shall try to uncover in such a state what possible meaning can be found, or what escape hatchway may yet escape down, to hold at bay the drop into despair, the very real sense that purpose is but a long-last pipe dream. Reclaiming. We begin by exploring the question of meaning, and then proceed to a multi-angled exploration of the downfalls and triumphs of Nietzsche's overman ideal in history and in the arena of ideas. The scope of the burdens in the field of confusions, the questions. Must everything contain meaning? It is the question that drives me insane on late nights, as we thrashing in consciousness again on an imagined brick wall, banging head again against the blunted and stubborn question. What is this burden of meaning? What gives it such a feeling of density? Must we as poets and philosophers lie to tell the truth? Is truth that most exquisite device from which many lies are generated in some excruciating circular fashion? To sail alone with such questions is to be half mad, adrift in the ocean of disconnected relations to a world that escapes meaning. But is this a reason to despair or to hope? Does not a void of absolute imply an infinite potential? Acceptance is the burden, perhaps, the burden of uncertain meaning, love, hate, data, fact, the whole boatload of associations and relations, abstract language. And what of language itself, the obscene generator of multidimensional potential? Meaningless garbage, syntax. Is this then a problem for linguistics to argue over? Or a mathematical equation that can be found? Some underlying universal standard? Of course not. How then can meaning be philosophical? Analysing intention is the realm of linguistics, syntax, maths. What place then does philosophy have in the world of meaning? A brief analysis on philosophical precedents through the bestial forces of nature. A subset of meaning and associations follow forth from each object the human mind forges, the abstract result of the slow heat death of the universe and being as entropy is certain and set as a law of nature as far as our observations can tell. But with inclination to chaos there comes the subjective forms that we as conscious and unconscious co-creators have interpreted as nature imprint into our objects, our emotional state, our distractions from animalistic impulse, our escape into that most forgotten, deep and fecund of realms, the imagination. Residing deep in the collective unconscious, from which spring forth all the visionary arts, the arcane poets, the self-imposed wanderers in the dark, the beauty, the despair, the multiple spinning distractions, and the music of the spheres. Platonic ideals, a mere humanistic imprint. Conceptually sound, but chaos beget chaos. Divulged meaning in the universe will play 10 more tricks on you. My intuition is that if consciousness could be said to represent anything akin to a mathematical form, it would be that of the fractal, a self-generative feedback loop of information constructed reality tunnels. imprinted meanings, associations. A whole garbage pile of psychobabble can't really describe it, and written language is an inefficient beast. Art can visualize the meaning of specific moments in space and time, but always as a frozen infinity, not as all moments, all meanings. There's no such thing as to touch the memory of the mind of God. And what is God, you ask? The burden of meaning. Our desire to impose order, moral, man-made, and structure. Negation of God as absolute meaning. The real question then, if we can negate God in the abstract sense of all meaning, which are after all unknowable by virtue of being the top of the chain of associations, and that objectivity in everything is an impossible quest, what must we replace this void with, as spoken in the hushed tones in the halls of atheistic thinkers and philosophers? What void replaces the void of the all-knowing God? Some obscene man puppet? Some man god, wannabe Superman? Some rent-a-day Zarathustra? Some man as god idol? New Hitlers and dictators? The 20th century was an excuse and exercise in such folly, and millions burned for it. Let's not forget our responsibility to each other, to the very basic compassion and attempt at least at suppressing the dormant beast. We'll know its face all too well. The crisis is real and reaches into every sphere of man's contemporary existence. A natural question, and one that requires, if not a complete answer, at least some attempt at such. I will return shortly to this truly horrendous and difficult question like some mountainous question mark in the distance. But for now, I must visit some ghosts. Conversing with ghosts on the limits of the overland. The answer Nietzsche provided was that post-human Übermensch, some being who transcended the limitations of the dulling culture of complacency of the last man, accepted their suffering and transformed them into strengths, denied the cult of the Christian slave morality, and laughed in the face of death, instead creating art in its place. This seems to be a rough description of the Zarathustra's ideal as described in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Few men and women can work at such a level. By its nature, the overman is above man, and Nietzsche was a certain kind of cultural elitist, rallying as he did against last man's socialism and the weaknesses inherent in the Marxist interpretation of history, of which I would agree there are many. But still the question remains, the will to power being the creative will is the driving force, but the cult of the individual is drivers also into a willful despair, unconscious but howling everywhere from every street corner. Children of Ayn Rand, herself unquestionably influenced by Nietzsche, have a powerful place and influence in the world, and if Nietzsche's ideas have rooted and changed the world beyond amongst the artists and poets, it is in her philosophy of objectivism. But this is not about her and her cult of followers. This is about the overman. What is clear to me is that Nietzsche was one of the most painstakingly accurate philosophers of the 20th century, adequately smashing and reconstructing in the Übermensch the ideal of the self-created being, tragic but totemic. But if I'd say there were a flaw in this totemic statue of something new, a figure emerging from the shallow weeping of a dying god, which is not known and evades easy detection, I would say it's the very mercurial description of what this Übermensch would entail practically in man, for which one would forgive Nietzsche. What other philosopher has set himself such a task? Most certainly an impossible task, but a task for which yet more must pick up the baton in this, certainly the most complex, multi-layered and confusing of eras to live. How much of this is mere projection, I leave to you. But the failure of the Übermensch ideal is reflected in its inherent belief in the subjugation of all societal moral values into a self-created morality. No morals exist in isolation from the cultures that create them, and no man is without morals. Even in a universe as certainly burdened with meanings as ours, this much I can attest to. By which I mean, of course, that morals are abstract value systems, but this does not mean that they are without meaning. As understood via the prism of society, the suppression of the unchained beast in man is never without purpose entirely. The flaw of the Übermensch, in my humble eyes, is Zarathustra's tendency to blast the world open, its bombast and stern arrogance, while stemming from the most sublime area of the human imagination, also has a tendency to veer into fanaticism when applied to society, and even worse when interpreted by the moronic, as in the 20th century when the ideas of Superman were co-opted, leading to a mass misinterpretation to a fatalistic fascism and self-destructive will to power. Or perversely, instead of cultivating and refining the individual above the values of the herd, inversely During the disaster of the 20th century, the herd became the powerful possessor of a weakened will by the false idol of the man-god dictator. It's a good thing that Nietzsche never got to see his ideals co-opted and distorted, mutated in such an ugly fashion. The overman will certainly never emerge in any way we can imagine. It must remain by its very nature enigmatic, and this is the greatest strength of Nietzsche and also his greatest weakness. He created an ideal so perfect in its philosophical elegance that it is the most clarifying of ideals. That is, it must always remain so. A vessel trapped in a metaphysical chamber, separate and winking at the sufferings of men forever, but pointing us occasionally to sweet moments of transitory bliss. So that's that first episode. I'll do a few of these because I've got a few extracts from this for read, for our essays. So tune in for more. I think I'm going to take my channel into more. Well, still posting my game design work, but more for philosophy dumping ground, I suppose, which is good. I like writing philosophy sometimes, and writing in general. So, cheers for watching.